Do you want more money or do you want an affordable life? Because those two are very different things. Your salary increase doesn't matter. What you should care about is the real growth in your pay. Hi, my name is Yolanda and welcome to this channel. On this channel, I give you easy, actionable tips, content, and strategies that you can use to manage money well, live abundantly, and build generational wealth. Now, the price of goods and services are rising, and we all want, possibly need, or maybe we think we need a salary increase. But what if I told you that you could live with 20,000 Rand a month, pay your rent, pay your bond, 2 cars in the garage, on finance, kids in private school, private healthcare, and overseas holiday every year, every second year, and you can do all of that on 20,000 Rand a month? Would you be happy with 20,000? Or would you want 40, 50, 60,000 Rand a month and barely make it on a middle class lifestyle? Now, we are seeing a lot of strikes happening in South Africa. Civil servants are striking, demanding a 10% increase. SARS employees are striking. The mines are even striking heavily, and the Minister of Minerals has even threatened to pull the mining license of that specific mine. For some companies, it's their personal choice to give their employees a raise. For others, it is forced. And I bet many of you watching me right now, you believe that the raising salaries or even a raising minimum wage will help people combat the skyrocketing cost of living, possibly even take money from the super rich in our country. And there's plenty of people that think that taking money away from the rich people is a great idea. But you know what? Increasing salaries only hurt people like you and I. At the end of the day, companies are going to pay folks more money. They're going to raise their prices to ensure they maintain the same profit margins, and these higher prices are what you and I are going to have to pay. Now combine these product price increases with salary increases. Combine that with the rising energy costs. Our main supply of energy in South Africa is Eskom. And right now, Eskom is making increases every year by 15%. In fact, they want to push it up higher, but the regulator basically brings them down to 15%. So from a manufacturing point of view, a 15% increase has to be factored into the price. That's another driver of inflation. That's devaluing the very salary that you're working for, day in and day out. So you could be earning 50,000 Rand on the 1st of January, another 15,000 Rand by the 1st of December or the end of December, but the buying power of that 50,000 Rand is completely different. Because in between, from January to December, there have been massive increases in the prices in our supply chain. Increasing labor, increases in manufacturing of goods and services, increasing energy costs, fuel costs. Around 33% of our fuel goes towards taxes. Another driver of inflation in our country is taxes. But this is an example of a business broker that shared on social media recently. Look at what we pay in taxes. Now, if I'm not able to maintain my 30% profit margin, then what's the point of running a business? Let me take my money, let me go somewhere else. If I want to stay in the SADC region, let me go to Mozambique, Namibia, Botswana. Botswana is very business friendly. I wanted a better standard of living, maybe the United States, UK, pay those high taxes, but get a better standard of living. And this is the problem we have now, where we can't get foreign direct investment because of the various elements that are driving up the cost of production, including higher taxes. In my opinion, the biggest drivers of production side inflation in South Africa are one, high taxes, because if you pay less taxes to the thieving government, there would be more money in our pocket. And the money would have greater value because there's nobody to steal it. We get to decide how our money is spent. Two is energy. The cost of energy is just too high. Combine that with the high taxes within the energy prices and mismanagement of those funds. And three, salary increases without the equivalent exchange in value. Remember that business owners and entrepreneurs, they need an incentive to go out and create goods and services every day. And if they don't have that incentive, they won't add value to society. Then the products that we know and love are going to go away. And we saw that recently with the lockdowns. I mean, a lot of our places, our favorite places, were just no longer there because they couldn't exchange value. Their bills were piling up. They had no customers, and that customer was their incentive. Imagine if Eskom had financial incentive. Would we still have load shedding? They have no financial incentive currently because when they want money, the government gives it to them. They can get money easily. They have zero financial incentive to provide us, the user, with value in exchange for money. And that, boys and girls, is socialism, and that's a discussion for another day. And then the salary increases without the equivalent value exchange. But everybody wants to get paid more. And when that happens, what happens to inflation? Eventually, the costs go up and your buying power stays the same. And that's it right there. People that sit there and say, oh, minimum wage should have been raised years ago. Raise it every year. More money circulates, inflation skyrockets, asset prices go up, and since the rich don't work for money, they work for assets, the rich get rich, the poor get poorer because if they're holding cash, that cash is devaluing, and everybody complains about it. When we were the actual drivers of inflation in the first place, a component of it, that is. But what if we made minimum wage 100,000 Rand a month? Imagine how much KFC would cost. So in order for KFC to maintain their profit margin, they are going to have to increase their prices of their products. Fewer people are going to be able to afford these products because the prices are so high. And because fewer people are buying the products, the company will not be productive anymore. Stores will slowly start shutting down, and this will effectively affect other parts of the KFC supply chain. And because KFC won't be purchasing goods anymore, the stores in the areas that can afford to buy a KFC, it's going to be at extremely high prices. Maybe they'll swap out machines instead of employees because you don't pay a machine 100,000 Rand a month. This could lead to an overall reduction in the workforce. More machines. Now you can't get mad at this because nobody wants to be paying excessively high salaries. If the business owner says, right, I'm going overseas, get a supply from China. You can't get mad at that because you can't have your cake and eat it too. You can't complain when a business owner is forced almost into saying, well, if I can't make a profit because everybody wants low prices on the products and high labor, it just doesn't work that way. So if I'm a normal working South African, you probably don't care about anything I just said. You just want more money. You should really care about the real growth in your pay. What that means is how much can you buy with your salary, whether it's less or whether it's more, right? Because what's the point of earning 50,000 when you can only buy in real value 20,000? That doesn't make sense. But guess who can be the biggest driver of how much you earn? You can. Get more training, get more skills, go spend money on yourself to get better, because when you invest in yourself, you get better at being good. And it's not somebody else's responsibility to give you more money. It's your responsibility to add more value, solve more problems. I don't like the fact that I have to pay 15% more to get the exact same quality of product or service to anybody, especially to eThekwini municipality. The price increase must be justified with an equivalent increase in value, whether you are a customer or an employee. 15% increase in property taxes is no clear exchange in value. That's expensive. It's an absolute tragedy. So as a consumer, I hate paying Eskom an additional 15% a year. As we all know, year after year, it's more load shedding and less value from Eskom. Now, it's the same when you're an employee. What have you done to justify your above inflation pay raise? How are you adding more value to your department? How are you doing things better? What new skills have you acquired? You should know that costs are going up, and this is the reality of life. By the way, if you want to get those prices down, it lies with government, because majority of that money goes to taxes. When unequivalent salaries and taxes and energy prices go up, think about how it will affect you. Well, first of all, it will affect jobs, because there are around 2.6 million some odd small businesses in the country that employ about 11.8 million people. Those businesses now have to produce their goods and services They have to pay more taxes. They have to pay workers unrealistic salary increases every month that isn't equivalent in terms of exchange in value. And all this is going to get the price increase passed on to you and I. And that will lead us unable to afford the basics. So if we don't buy, businesses shut down. People lose their jobs, government loses their taxes. Now you're probably upset with me because you're thinking higher salaries make people's lives better. But I've just showed you that that is not the case. Think in terms of nominal rands in your salary. If our cost increased by double and your salary increased by double, you've gotten no benefit. But the average person, they don't really see it that way. They just see it as sexy as I'm earning twice as much now. But little do you realize that you have twice as less buying power now. Higher salaries are really a perception issue. The perception is I make more money. It's not reality. Perception is the way it is in your head. But in actual reality, take a step back. If a loaf of bread is 10 Rand today and 20 Rand tomorrow, and if you earn 100 Rand today and 200 Rand tomorrow, that's still a 10% margin. It's the same amount of buying power. I'm not okay with government saying to pay people more just because it makes all the costs of everything go higher. Let's look at it this way. The biggest example is if I pay somebody 200 Rand a day before, now I have to pay them 225 Rand a day. But am I getting the same exchange in value? Am I getting more? Am I getting less? To understand why inflation plays such a big part, let's try and consider things on a smaller scale. Consider a small economy consisting of a baker, a tailor, a carpenter who buy and sell products among themselves. Now think about what happens when the government, like Zimbabwe, starts paying their soldiers with newly printed money. At first, the baker is delighted. When the soldiers walk through his door, there's cash for bread to satisfy the new customers. The baker works extra hours, hires more staff, bakes more bread, and is able to raise prices. How wonderful, the baker thinks, with the increases in demand for bread. Are we able to buy more clothes and more cabinets? Meanwhile, the tailor and the carpenter, they do much of the same thing, as the soldiers are also buying goods from them. But when the baker arrives to the tailor to buy shirts, however, he finds that he's been fooled. The soldiers bought the shirts for themselves, and the prices of the shirts are now gone up. It's the same way the tailor and the carpenter, they've discovered that the price of goods that they want to buy have gone up as well. So although they are earning more rands, their real wages, the amount of goods that the baker, the tailor, and the carpenter can buy with these rands have decreased. When the government wants to buy goods or service, it faces higher prices as well. So it has to print more money to buy more goods as before. Now, we really don't have that problem of money printing in South Africa. However, we did have a little bit of quantitative easing in 2020 when the Reserve Bank printed some money and bought government retail bonds, not in the same extent as other countries do. Moreover, when this new money enters the economy, the banker, for example, is now in the race to go to the tailor and to the carpenter to get his money spent before the prices go up again. But unfortunately, the tailor and the carpenter, they are likely to have the same idea. And the result is that the prices increase even more quickly than the first time. Eventually, there's more money in circulation. Welfare starts happening. Government starts giving out all of this free money to buy goods. The baker, the tailor, and the carpenter, they don't catch on. They come to expect and prepare for inflation. Instead, they're working extra hours. The baker and the tailor and the carpenter, they will realize that by the time they get to spend their money, the goods that they want to buy, the prices on them have already increased. And knowing this, the baker and the tailor and the carpenter will no longer be happy to see the soldiers entering their shop, waving fistful of rands, and they'll no longer want to work extra hours, making more bread, selling more clothes, and building more cabinets. This is the parable of inflation. So inflation is kind of like a drug. The drug stimulates at first, But then you need more and more to get the same stimulus until you need the drug just to be normal. And finally, when you stop using the drug, you get these severe withdrawal symptoms. So what's your long-term strategy to combat inflation? One should be lower taxes. This will result with pain in the government welfare system, because lower taxes means, firstly, less for government to steal and less for them to spend on welfare. In the long run, this curbs extreme price hikes. Two, a more open and free market economy, less government intervention. Imagine Eskom having a serious competitor. How quickly do you think load shedding will be fixed? And three, curb the unions. There must be a fair value of exchange for above inflation salary hikes. If inflation is under control, there wouldn't be a demand for above inflation price hikes. In the short term, you got to become indispensable at work. No shirking. Be the best employee you can be. There'll be a time for staff reduction. Okay, it's almost impossible in the South African environment. So be so good that nobody wants to put you on that list. Two, you need to upskill yourself. And I don't mean to go study, because study can be expensive, but you can learn skills. You can learn it for free. One, you're watching this video. So there are tons of videos all around where you can learn different things. And three, you got to start a side hustle. Sell something. Even if it's something small, whether it's giving you an extra $500 a week, it helps. Every little cent helps. Okay, even if it's only to your friends and family, that can help. And lastly, number four, get rid of your cash. And I don't mean spend it. I mean, put it in a form where it's shielding from inflation, such as an investment. And if you're ready to invest, reach out. I'll be happy to help you out.